NFPA 286 Standard Methods of Fire Tests for Evaluating Contribution of Wall and Ceiling Interior Finish to Room Fire Growth, 2006 edition. The scope of NFPA 286 Section 1.1 states that the standard describes a method for determining the contribution of interior finish materials to room fire growth during specified fire exposure conditions is acceptable. The test is conducted in a room that's 8 foot wide by 12 foot long by 8 feet high with a single doorway. An ignition source is positioned at one intersection of the 8 foot and 12 foot walls in the back of the room. The ignition source is a gas burner that is capable of supplying a net rate of heat output of 40 kilowatts for 5 minutes, followed by 160 kilowatts for 10 minutes. Flashover is considered to have occurred when any two of the following conditions have been attained. Number 1, heat release exceeds 1 milliwatt. 2, heat flux at the floor exceeds 20 kilowatts per meter squared. 3, average upper layer temperature exceeds 600 degrees Celsius, 1112 degrees Fahrenheit. 4, flames exit doorway. 5, auto-ignition of a paper target on the floor occurs. In addition, the flames cannot reach the ceiling during the first 5 minutes, nor the extremities of the 8 or 12-foot walls during the 15-minute time interval. Test number 1, wood cavities with no insulation. The test construction consisted of 2x4 studs, 16 inches on center on plywood backing. No insulation was installed in the wall or ceiling cavities. One room corner was constructed so that only one stud edge was exposed to the ignition source. The edge of the stud was covered with a nominal 1.5-inch strip of KO wool or ceramic fiber. No change in the system was observed during the 5-minute exposure to the 40 kilowatt source. Therefore, the heat output was changed to 160 kilowatts. At 5 minutes and 34 seconds, the smoke began to increase. The back corner stud ignited at 5 minutes and 58 seconds, and the ceiling ignited at 6 minutes and 14 seconds. A heavy layer of smoke formed to within approximately 3.5 feet off the floor of the room. Flames exited the doorway at 7 minutes and 18 seconds, and the test was terminated at 7 minutes and 20 seconds. NFPA 286 does not publish pass-fail criteria, but the test reached flashover conditions. 1, heat flux on the floor exceeded 22 kilowatts per meter squared. 2, average ceiling temperature approached 1400 degrees Fahrenheit. 3, flames spread to the extremities of both walls during the test. And 4, flames exited the doorway. Test number 2, wood cavities with sprayed cellulose insulation. The test construction consisted of 2x4 studs, 16 inches on center on plywood backing. Generic cellulose insulation was installed in the wall and ceiling cavities. After spraying, the excess cellulose was removed using a stud scrubber, and the insulation was allowed to dry before the test was performed. One room corner was constructed so that only one stud edge was exposed to the ignition source. The edge of the stud was covered with a nominal 1.5-inch strip of KO wool or ceramic fiber. The cellulose began to discolor or char at 57 seconds. The char area continued to increase. After 5 minutes of exposure to the 40 kilowatt source, the heat output was changed to 160 kilowatts. At 5 minutes and 1 second, the ceiling insulation began to char. The studs on the back wall and the right wall showed sustained ignition at 9 minutes and 57 seconds. No signs of flashover were observed after 15 minutes. NFPA 286 does not publish pass-fail criteria, but the test did not reach flashover conditions. Smoke and charring were limited to the first 2 stud cavities. No insulation fell from any of the cavities during the tests. No flashover condition were observed. Test number 6, wood cavities with low-density foam insulation. The test construction consisted of 2x4 studs, 16 inches on center on plywood backing. Generic nominal 0.5 pounds per cubic foot foam was installed in the wall and ceiling cavities. The foam was trimmed with saws so that it was flush with the studs. One room corner was constructed so that only one stud edge was exposed to the ignition source. The edge of the stud was covered with a nominal 1.5-inch strip of kale wool, ceramic fiber. The specimen ignited at 9 seconds and flames reached the ceiling at 20 seconds. Heavy black smoke appeared and flashover occurred at 44 seconds. The test was terminated. NFPA 286 does not publish pass-fail criteria, but the test reached flashover conditions. 1. The average ceiling temperature approached 1900 degrees Fahrenheit. 2. Flames spread to the extremities of both walls during the test. 3. Flames exited the doorway. 4. Both paper targets were ignited. 5. Heat flux reached 85 kilowatts per meter squared. 6. Flames reached the ceiling during the first 5 minutes. The studs, headers, and joists were charred, and the